Good evening, everyone. Wow, that was impressive. So I am just old enough to remember when they used to have those E.F. Hutton commercials. Do you all remember those? It was like for the brokerage house, and when he'd be in a noisy room, and then they'd say, "My broker is E.F. Hutton," and then everybody would stop and listen. I'm Jelani Cobb. I'm Dean of Columbia Journalism School. Oh, wow. I like this crowd already. Welcome to the 85th annual Maria Moors Cabot Prizes ceremony, the oldest awards in international journalism. We gather here tonight to celebrate outstanding journalism in and about Latin America. The 2023 prizes, as always, honor those who have dedicated their careers to understanding and reporting on sometimes underreported yet key parts of our hemisphere and our world. From Mexico to Nicaragua, Colombia to Venezuela, and beyond. First, let me welcome this year's honorees. June Carolyn Erlick. The author and editor of ReVista, the Harvard Review of Latin America, who is based in the US but covers the hemisphere. For the Associated Press, reporter Joshua Goodman. And he is based in Miami, but also covers the hemisphere. From Colombia, Carlos Eduardo Huertas. Who is the director of Connectas, a platform that promotes the exchange of information and knowledge about key issues in the Americas. And from Mexico, Alejandra Xanic. Who is a leading investigative journalist and co-founder of Quinto, Elemento Lab, an investigative media outlet. Congratulations to all of the 2023 Cabot medalists. You can applaud, everyone. So we have a running joke at graduation that's really threadbare. I say the hands down most ignored sentence in the English language is "please hold your applause until the end." Nobody ever does that. We will give two special citations to two courageous reporters this evening. The first to Miguel Mendoza, who is an independent journalist in exile from Nicaragua. The second citation is for Mexican reporter Nayeli Roldán, from Animal Político. Welcome to our citation recipients as well. And additionally, we are so fortunate to have the new president of Columbia University with us, Minouche Shafik, this evening. She will host these proceedings. There's a footnote here, which is that President Shafik and I have 3 events in a row on 3 consecutive days. And I told her last night that I really empathize with her because she's going to have to hear all of my recycled jokes. And that, in fact, is a recycled joke because I told that last night. Now I'd like to recognize some special people who are here tonight. First, we'd like to welcome the Cabot family. Your leadership and continued support enables us to pay tribute to the best reporting about the Americas. Next, I would like to welcome past Cabot medalists, as well as members of the Cabot Board, a well-known group of scholars and journalists who contribute their expertise to choose winners every year. We appreciate all that you do collectively for the prizes. Former Columbia University Provost and leading scholar of Latin America and economic and international history, John Coatsworth, is with us tonight, and we want to give a welcome to him as well. And as always, thank you to our Professional Prizes Department for administering these awards and producing tonight's ceremony. They have a consistent track record of excellence. We want to make sure that we recognize them as well. Last, I would like to acknowledge our journalism school students in attendance, especially our international students and this year's Cabot Scholars. You can applaud for them. Thank you. I hope you take the opportunity to speak to some of our students who are here this evening. They are seated throughout the room, and as well as members of the National Association of Hispanic Journalists who are here as well. And thank you. And now I will stop talking so you can enjoy your dinner. Hello, everyone. If you can take your seats, we will continue with tonight's program. Welcome back. It really is an honor to have such courageous journalists here with us tonight in Low Library. You inspire us and help us to set standards for the profession. Freedom of the press is under attack throughout the Americas and the world. Still, as we will hear tonight from our winners themselves, journalism matters because bearing witness matters. Holding people accountable matters. Context matters. Journalism right now is crucial, but it has always been crucial. In fact, lately, as I'm hearing myself and others say that sentence at events like this, it is a challenging time to be a journalist, I feel like I say that every year. Because when is it not a challenging time to be a journalist? And as I look out at the winners of these particular awards, I'm sure this has been even more true for every single one of you throughout your careers. Many of you are literally putting your lives on the line every day to go to work. Needless to say, in times of war and conflict, journalists are especially vulnerable. As we are witnessing with the terrorist attack on Israel and now the retaliatory airstrikes on Gaza, as of October 17th, in just 11 days of fighting, at least 17 journalists have been killed, according to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Journalists are civilians doing important work during these times of crisis and should never be targeted by warring parties. And with disinformation affecting public opinion, solid, factually accurate reporting is especially crucial to our world. We've had a lively panel discussion yesterday with our students and honorees, moderated by our newly minted Phil Balboni professor, Juan Manuel Benitez. There's Juan. There's Juan. Thank you, Juan Manuel. My running joke is that every single person in New York City knows Juan Manuel. If you don't believe me, just go up to random strangers and say, do you know Juan Manuel? Like, oh, that's my guy, I know him. And now to tonight's program. Please welcome the chair of the Cabot jury, Rosenthal Alves. I'm going to read this, although, the only person who is as well known in this room as Juan Manuel is Rosenthal. Originally from Brazil, Rosenthal spent almost 3 decades as a reporter and a foreign correspondent. He moved to Austin in 1996 to become the founder and director of the Knight Center for Journalism in the Americas at the University of Texas, Austin. And he won a Cabot Prize in 2016. He comes to us fresh from the White House, where he was yesterday for an event hosted by Dr. Jill Biden in honor of the United States returning to UNESCO. Welcome, Rosenthal.
Wow, thank you so much, Jelani. I did not know you would say that about the President of the United States passed by the event and said something like, I'm sorry I cannot stay here in this event because I have to catch a plane. And, he did. All right, so thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. It's my honor to participate in these proceedings at Columbia. To all the honorees here tonight, welcome, welcome, bienvenidos, bienvenidas, bem-vindas, bem-vindos. To my fellow judges, thank you for your hard work selecting these outstanding groups of winners. Working with you on these important awards is a highlight every year for me. To the journalism school and Abby Wright, who runs this award with her team, thank you for all your work organizing this great event. President Shafiq, I bring a special message for you from the Cabot jury. Bienvenida, bem-vinda. Welcome to the Cabot family. I hope you will enjoy connecting with this heroic and dedicated journalists you will meet tonight. I know you are very happy to share we are very happy to share this wonderful occasion with you. In your recent inaugural address, you spoke about your life experience as someone who immigrated to the United States as a child with your family from Egypt and grew up to become an accomplished economist. You talked about how you, quote, cherish the role education plays in social mobility and spreading opportunity, end of quote. You also spoke about the importance of being an engaged citizen at Columbia, calling on this community to be engaged globally and locally. These Cabot Prizes honor journalists who are doing just that in their work, engaging with global and local communities in their reporting on Latin America, often under adverse, repressive, and even mortally dangerous conditions. This year's winners are no exception. Their collective courage under pressure is truly inspiring. The 2023 Cabot winners are also generous, mentoring the next generation of reporters. These awards lift up journalism from a region that is undercovered in the United States and yet is fundamental to progress and security in the hemisphere and the world. In 1938, the Cabot Prizes found their best home at Colombia. We are thankful that tonight, as president, you reaffirm that they are part of the essential mission of a robust and ambitious Columbia University that looks outward and engages with the world. Please join me in welcoming to the podium the 20th president of Columbia University, Menoush Shafik.
Thank you very much for that very, very warm and generous welcome. It is a huge pleasure to be here tonight with all of you to celebrate the exceptional achievements of the Cabot Prize winners covering the Americas. To Dean Cobb, to the Cabot family, and to the Cabot jury, thank you for inviting me to carry on this 85-year tradition of these awards, the oldest prizes in international journalism. And to John Coatsworth, I want to extend a special welcome. Your service at Columbia, most recently as provost, and before that as dean of the School of International and Public Affairs, is so greatly appreciated. And to all the Columbia students who are here, welcome. It is wonderful to share this occasion with you. And to tonight's winners, you have my deep appreciation and admiration. It takes huge courage to keep investigating, asking questions, reporting on difficult subjects in the face of enormous pressures, many of them life-threatening. Your work is truly inspiring. You've also done so much to educate, to mentor, and encourage the next generation of journalists. Your work to teach them the skills and provide new opportunities to talented individuals reminds me very much of the work that we do here at Columbia. After all, our first job is to educate citizens and leaders who are comfortable with rigorous debate, with evidence, and with the knowledge to tackle the challenges that we face. And I don't need to remind people in this room that we exist in a society in which there are deep, deep divisions. Current events are a stark reminder of that. Inequity, differences between different races and religions, different values and principles, different views about politics, all of those are things that need us to be more knowledgeable and enlightened. And great journalism and great universities share a mission in doing just that. In fact, our role in educating citizens of the future is in part a way to provide you, the readers of the future. And of course, our job as universities in generating new knowledge is the material of your future stories. And finally, the importance of us being engaged locally and globally is completely complementary to your engagement with the communities that you serve. In our case, including two important bases in Latin America through our global centers in Rio and Santiago. So great journalism, like great universities, serve a common purpose. They play an incredibly important role in providing the citizens of the future, and they are critical if our democracies are to succeed and be sustained. So we need more of both, more great journalists, more great universities, and I'm eager to exploit those synergies even more. Now, let's turn to the real action. Let's begin our celebration of great journalism in Latin America. And with that, I am going to invite the first Cabot Gold medalist to the stage. Could June Carolyn Erlick please come to the podium? So June Carolyn Erlick's 50-year journalism career has been dedicated to fostering understanding in the Americas through excellent reporting on Latin America. First as a foreign correspondent in the region, and then over the last 25 years as an author and founding editor of the ReVista magazine at Harvard University's David Rockefeller Center for Latin American Studies. She created a platform for groundbreaking voices in journalism and academia through carefully curated essays, photojournalism, and dispatches on important issues that don't always attract the media's attention. A proud graduate of Columbia Journalism School, class of 1970. Yes. She served on the board of the Maria Moors Cabot Prizes for 9 years, including a period as the chair, before stepping down in 2020. Over her long career, she has mentored generations of journalists interested in covering Latin America. She's also written 4 books about the region, including Disappeared, a Journalist Silenced, on the assassination of Guatemalan journalist Irma Flacker. That helped force an admission of culpability in her death by the Guatemalan state. For her dedication to the region and the journalists who cover it, the Maria Moors Cabot jury is proud to honor June Carolyn Erlick with the Maria Moors Cabot Gold Medal. Oh, yes.
Okay. Wow. I think I have to go off script for a moment because I have a Beatles song going through my head. Eli, I won't sing. I will paraphrase. There are people I remember all my life, and some remain, some are dead, and some are living. In my life, I've loved them more. They all have inspired me. Those journalists who have given their lives for freedom of the press, like Pedro Joaquin Chamorro, John Dominique, Irma Flacker. Those journalists who have, and editors, who have accompanied me through Central America, in Colombia, and those academics who have helped me understand what is going on, the different trends. I love them all. I thank them all. It is my pleasure to accept the Maria Moors Cabot Award. I have special thanks for John Coatsworth, who, as the founding director of the David Rockefeller Center for Latin American Studies, had the courage, vision, insanity perhaps, of letting me start this magazine to bring voices from Latin America and Latin Americas together to understand the region. And to Steve Levitsky, the current director of Dr. Class, as we call it, who is a very willing and enthusiastic collaborator for ReVista. We all like a scoop. But as journalism faces economic, social, and security challenges, we need to think about the we. And we're already starting to think about the we. with platforms like Connectas, honored here tonight, the Panama Papers, all those organizations which act to keep journalists safe, to keep journalists educated. We all want journalists and journalism to survive. But there is another we that we don't talk about that often as journalists, and that is the many Latin Americans and Latinos who are our sources, who are our inspiration. We journalists don't work in a vacuum. Our sources, our community, we aim to be the voice for the voiceless. But to do so, we have to listen. During my teens and my early 20s, I lived in a neighborhood just south of here. I'm bad at directions. My neighbors were Dominican. In their country, they were middle class. They were exiles from the dictatorship of Rafael Trujillo. In this country, they worked as factory workers, as janitors, as housekeepers. When I went to the bodega and asked for milk, they told me it was leche. But they gave me so much more than the language. They taught me the exile, the missing of the colors and the flavors of home. They taught me to listen. And without them, I would not be who I am today. Which brings me to the synergy between the academia and journalism, because the academy helps put everything into context. How democracies die, why my neighbors had to live in exile, the meaning of immigration. They help journalists to understand the big picture, and we as journalists help the academics to understand the day-to-day. My boss, Steve Levitsky, told me that I had to tell a joke at this acceptance speech. I'm bad at jokes, so the closest I can get to a joke here is I've been talking all this time about the we, and we all like a scoop, even me. And this is the best scoop I've ever had in my life. Thank you, Columbia University, my alma mater. Thank you, Cabot Jury. And thank you, all of you who have helped me to get where I am today. Thank you.
Can I invite Joshua Goodman to please come to the podium? For more than 2 decades, Joshua Goodman has reported from the Americas with groundbreaking, often unique investigations that combine deeply sourced knowledge and keen empathy. At the Associated Press and previously at other news outlets, he has written trailblazing reports from South America's most politically complex countries, including Brazil, Colombia, and Venezuela. It's in Venezuela where Josh made some of his most important contributions to the understanding of the region. when there was little reliable information emerging from a widely censored country, and when opinion and policy in Washington was completely distorted by partisan politics, Joshua continued to dig. He was able to provide sometimes the only accurate accounts of what was happening amid the tragic collapse of one of the region's wealthiest countries. And finally, when the abuses of Nicolas Maduro's government made reporting from within Venezuela all but impossible, Joshua proceeded to produce scoops from Florida and Washington and elsewhere. And for his dogged determination, boundless attention to detail, and vast journalistic knowledge, he's added to our understanding of the region's most important trends. The board is pleased to present Joshua Goodman with the Maria Moors Cabot Gold Medal. Joshua.
I'm a proud graduate of Columbia College, so thank you. Welcome to Columbia.
Thank you so much.
Well, I'm going to start with two anecdotes. In 1971, the same year that Richard Nixon declared the war on drugs, the president offered a young Donald Rumsfeld some free career advice. He said, quote, "Latin America doesn't matter. People don't give one damn about Latin America." Luckily, none of us gathered here tonight who are committed to inter-American understanding have ever subscribed to Nixon's view. But the inherent conceit that informed his worldview has not entirely gone away. In 2018, I learned of and reported on a meeting between President Trump and his aides to discuss sanctions on Venezuela. At one point, Trump turned to his national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, and asked an unsettling question. Why can't the US just simply invade the country? These two Oval Office conversations, 50 years apart from one another, are bookends to a long legacy of an arrogant and often interventionist US foreign policy toward Latin America. They reflect how many in the United States, across the political spectrum, view Latin America and the Caribbean, and in turn inform how millions in the region still view the United States. But while old habits die hard, especially in Washington, some of the biggest challenges the region confronts today do not come from the Imperio del Norte. Rather, they stem from overwhelming global forces like climate change, economic inequality, the rise of China, the spread of disinformation, extremism, and authoritarianism. If there's a silver lining in so much political turbulence, it's that we in the United States are buffeted by the very same dangers. And in these existential threats lies an opportunity for a new, more honest dialogue and relationship with the Americas, one built less on scolding and more on common action and more partnership. In my reporting from the cities I've called home, Buenos Aires, Bogotá, Rio de Janeiro, Caracas, and now that piece of Latin America in the US called Miami, I've sought to expose the abuses and corruption of economic and political elites, as well as the double standards of their critics, often in the US and other places. That mission of holding the powerful to account is more urgent than ever if we are to ever overcome deepening levels of distrust, impatience, and unrest. But it's also a duty made more burdensome by a lack of basic trust in the media itself to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. And sadly, as my fellow Cabot recipients Miguel Mendoza from Nicaragua and Nayeli Roldán from Mexico know all too well, when hostility to truth-telling comes from the top, it can take a tremendous personal toll. The temptation to jump into the arena on either side of political combat is great. Ultimately, though, the best antidote, I believe, is more journalism. And I'm proud very much to work for an organization, the Associated Press, that values independent, fact-based, and ethics-driven journalism. Now, more than ever, when information spreads like wildfire, be it from a troll farm or a citizen journalist equipped with a cell phone, we need reporters who will engage with all political actors. This isn't an exercise in false balance or both sidesism. Rather, it's an essential component to ground truth, complex realities, promote understanding across a divided society, and serve the public with credible information so it can confront our biggest challenges head on. In closing, I would like to thank the board of the Maria Moors Cabot Prize, the trustees of Columbia, my alma mater. I am truly honored to be recognized alongside so many colleagues on this stage tonight, as well as from years past, some of which are here tonight. I wouldn't be as half a talented of a foreign correspondent as the Cabot jury believes I am without my father and late mother, who instilled in me the best of Midwestern values of hard work, humility, and empathy. My deepest gratitude goes to my wife and colleague, Andrea Dominguez, who is my sharpest editor, and I call her my personal fairness fairy. She makes sure I don't get out of line. And our two daughters, Sophia and Ilona, who one day will pick for themselves the best of the two cultures that they inherit. Thank you.
And now to our next Cabot Gold Medalist. May I invite Carlos Eduardo Huertas to come to the podium. A prominent journalist, editor, and news leader, Carlos Eduardo Huertas has made significant contributions to investigative journalism in the region. From his early days at Semana magazine to his current role at Connectas, the news platform he founded and directs, he's been committed to finding high-impact stories that combine rigorous data analysis with dynamic storytelling. For over a decade, he has created a journalistic method that has strengthened the skills of hundreds of colleagues in Colombia and the region. This approach is clearly reflected in the outstanding journalism found in Connectas. Because it uses collaborative networks, the platform has produced highly complex journalistic investigations involving reporters in Latin America and around the world. Huertas has also played a key role as an author, editor, and mentor in groundbreaking investigations such as the Panama Papers, the influence of Chavismo on oil diplomacy in Latin America, and human trafficking of Venezuelan women for prostitution in South America, and the environmental and human impact of the Trans-Amazonian highway construction. In recognition of his unwavering commitment to quality investigative reporting, the Maria Moors Cabot jury is proud to honor Carlos Eduardo Huertas with the Maria Moors Cabot Prize.
Wow, so many people here. I love the bilingual events. I'm going to talk in Spanish. Thank you. Bueno. Are you ready, Steve? Right, excellent. Okay. Por muchas razones es un honor para mí estar aquí. Una de ellas es que esta noche estamos acá para reconocer la valentía ante los desafíos extremos, la valentía que se mantiene firme ante la adversidad, como la que vemos en el trabajo de mis admirables colegas de Nicaragua y México, países a los que admiro de corazón.
For many
Allá-
reasons, it is an honor for me to be here tonight. One of them is that we're here to recognize bravery in the face of extreme challenges, bravery that stands firm before adversity, such as we see in the work of my admirable colleagues from Nicaragua and Mexico.
En estos países los periodistas son profesionales nobles que, parafraseando a la premio Nobel María Ressa, no retroceden ante el abuso del poder, sino que lo ponen en su lugar al tiempo que existe reparación para sus víctimas. Muchas gracias a los colegas de Nicaragua y de México.
In these countries, journalists are noble practitioners who, to paraphrase Nobel Prize winner Maria Ressa, do not recoil from the abuse of power, but instead put it in its place while demanding redress for its victims. And thank you again to my colleagues from Nicaragua and Mexico.
También es un honor para mí compartir este momento con otras dos maravillosas colegas que han sido parte de mi vida, que son Jun y Xanic, cuya amistad aprecio. Muchas gracias.
It's also an honor for me to be able to share this moment with two other wonderful colleagues, June and Xanic, whose friendship I cherish. Thank you to them.
Como una vez dijo el fallecido latinoamericanista Malcolm X, recibir un reconocimiento como este implica hacer una revisión privada sobre si lo mereces o no y si tienes los méritos. Por la enorme cantidad de elogios cálidos y genuinos y de buena voluntad que surgieron tras el anuncio, fue suficiente para pensar que estamos en el camino correcto. Y lo más importante, quizás, significa que podemos estar dejando nuestra huella, generando transformaciones y nuevas oportunidades.
As the late Latin Americanist Malcolm X once said, receiving a recognition like this entails doing a calculation of one's own as to whether or not you've deserved this, whether you've earned or merited it. But the sheer amount of warm, genuine praise and outpouring of goodwill that erupted in the wake of the announcement was enough to let me know, to indicate that we are indeed on the right path. Most importantly, perhaps it means we are leaving our mark, generating transformations and new opportunities.
A todos los compañeros que me han acompañado en este camino, en especial en los últimos 10 años de Connectas, me gustaría enviarles un gran agradecimiento por hacerlo posible. Y en este tiempo hemos escrito cientos de historias con casi la misma cantidad de colaboradores en todo el continente.
And to all the colleagues who have joined me on this journey, especially those in the recent years at Connectas, I'd like to send another warm and big thank you for making this possible. Over the course of this time, we've done hundreds of stories with almost as many collaborators from across the continent.
Muchas gracias también a ese grupo de colegas que de manera conspirativa presentaron sus valiosas palabras y referencias para apoyar la solicitud que hoy me tiene aquí. Y con el mejor equipo de apoyo de editores y coordinadores hemos logrado desarrollar diversas estrategias para promover el buen periodismo, un equipo humano impulsado por la dedicación, el amor y el profesionalismo. Para ellos, muchas gracias.
Many thanks, too, to the large group of colleagues who conspiratorially presented their own valuable words and references to support the application that brought me here today. It is with the best possible support team of editors and other coordinators that we've managed to develop a number of strategies for promoting good journalism. This is a human team that's driven by dedication, love, and professionalism, and for that, I extend my deepest thanks.
Hoy me acompañan dos miembros del equipo que han estado constantemente en primera línea y sin ellas hubiera sido imposible siquiera pensar en dar un solo paso adelante. Ellas son mi madre y mi esposa.
I'm accompanied today by two members of my team who have been consistently on the front lines with me. Without them, it would have been impossible to even think about taking a single one of these steps, my mother and my wife.
Thank you. Su apoyo y dedicación a través de todos los diversos esfuerzos que se han hecho son siempre respaldados también por sus oraciones. Nunca han flaqueado, ni siquiera durante la inusual transición de mi profesión inicial como arquitecto que soy a mi práctica como periodista.
Their support and dedication through all these various endeavors has always been accompanied together by their prayers. They never wavered, even during the unusual transition from my initial work and profession as an architect to being a practicing journalist.
Con frecuencia me preguntan sobre este cambio que hice y siempre digo que ambas profesiones son más similares de lo que se piensa, ya que cada una usa sus propias herramientas y lenguaje para describir un momento particular de la historia de la humanidad. Creo que mi paso hacia el periodismo, más que un cambio de profesión, fue un cambio de sentido en la vida. Estoy inmensamente agradecido a las muchas voces, algunas veces de acuerdo, algunas no, de los maestros del oficio con quienes ahora comparto este reconocimiento.
I'm frequently asked about this change that I made. And I always say that actually these two professions are more similar than you might think. They both use their own tools and a language to outline a particular moment in human history. I think that this move towards journalism, more than a change in profession, really changed the meaning of my life. And I'm immensely grateful to the many voices, some who were supportive and in agreement, others less so, of the masters of this craft with whom I now share this recognition.
Con esta metáfora en mente de la arquitectura y el periodismo, quiero agradecer a esas inspiradoras personas por haber construido y dado forma a los cimientos de lo que ahora llamaré la vibrante ciudad latinoamericana del periodismo.
With this metaphor of architecture and journalism in mind, I want to thank these inspiring people for having built and shaped the foundations of what I'll call this vibrant Latin American city of journalism.
A cada uno de los puntos cardinales de esta ciudad le daría el nombre de a quienes, en mi opinión, han dado a la región su particular efervescencia. Uno de esos puntos cardinales en la región sería el brasilero Rosenthal Alves, acá, por impulsar siempre organizaciones de vanguardia en el periodismo. Otro sería el peruano Ricardo Uceda, por su compromiso con la investigación y el acceso a la información. Otro, el colombiano Jaime Abello, por su compromiso con la narración y la voz de autor. Y otro, el panameño Luis Botello, por sus múltiples aportes, primero para promover la ética en la región y luego por buscar hacer sostenible el oficio en la región.
In this city, I would like to give each of the cardinal points the name of those who, in my opinion, give our region a particular ebullience. One of these cardinal points would be the Brazilian Rosenthal Alves, for always promoting organizations at the vanguard of journalism. Another would be the Peruvian Ricardo Uceda, for his commitment to investigation and access to information. Another from Colombia, Jaime Abello, for his commitment to the author's voice and narration. And the other, Luis Botello from Panama, for his many contributions to promote ethics in our work and for seeking a sustainable way to practice our craft in the region.
Dentro de esta ciudad del periodismo habría una zona de buenos restaurantes que seguramente sería el barrio Santoro. Estaría la cadena de gimnasios Gorriti, unos lindos cafés, los Duque, el club de jazz Science. También tendría plazas y avenidas muy importantes. Una sería Ronderos y otra sería González.
And within this city of journalism, there would be an area, a neighborhood of great restaurants, which would be the Santoro restaurant, the Santoro neighborhood. There would also be a chain of Gorriti gyms, some nice Duque cafes and science jazz clubs, and it would also have some very important squares and avenues. One would be Ronderos, another would be González.
La ciudad del periodismo latinoamericano está llena de intersecciones con los nombres de los grandes que nos han precedido en este lugar y de los que están por venir en este prestigioso premio. Por eso me siento orgulloso de poner un ladrillo más en esta construcción colectiva.
And this city of Latin American journalism is full of intersections, decorated with the names of those great ones who came before us in receiving this prestigious award and those that are yet to come. That's why I'm proud to lay just one more brick in the collective construction of this city.
Agradezco a los amigos que me honran con su confianza, como lo han hecho durante años mis colegas del Centro Internacional de Periodistas.
I thank my friends who honor me with their confidence as my colleagues at the International Center for Journalists.
Así como Jerry y Susana que están acá presentes, Manuel, Patricia, Michelle, Diana y muchos otros colegas que han estado en el lugar correcto, en el momento correcto, así como lo hoy están también aquí conmigo Joyce, Mari y Carlos. Muchas gracias.
Like Jerry and Susana, who are here tonight, Manuel, Patricia, Michelle, Diana, and many others who've been at the right place and at the right time, like those who are also with me today, Joyce, Mardi, and Carlos. Thank you.
Como es claro en estas palabras, quería centrarme en la gratitud.
As I hope it's clear, I want to focus on gratitude.
La primera vez que vi una medalla de Maria Moors Cabot fue la de José Rubén Zamora. Estaba en la oficina de su hijo José en Univisión. Cuando él me vio viéndola, me dijo, algún día. Bueno, ese día llegó.
The first time I saw a Maria Moors Cabot medal, it was that of José Rubén Zamora, and it was in the office of his son, of Rubén at Univisión. When he saw me looking at the medal, he told me, well, someday, and that day has come.
Conocí a José Rubén Zamora hace muchos años cuando recién iniciaba mi camino como emprendedor y muy pronto me enseñó a pensar en grande. Y hoy me enseña mucho desde la fortaleza con la que ha asumido las cosas difíciles que ha tenido que vivir.
I first met José Rubén Zamora many years ago when I was just starting my own path as an entrepreneur, and he very quickly taught me to think bigger. Today, he still teaches me a great deal from the fortitude with which he has responded and taken on the difficult things he's had to live through.
Por eso, al final de estas palabras, quisiera dedicarle este reconocimiento a él, recordarle que seguimos orando y esperando que se produzca su libertad. Y también quiero dedicarlo a Martica, una compañera de nuestro equipo que tiene por delante una dura lucha por su salud y cuya presencia transforma nuestro trabajo día a día en Connectas. Fuerza, Martica. Gracias a todos.
And that's why at the end of these words, I would like to dedicate this recognition to him, to Zamora, and remind him that we continue praying and waiting for his freedom. And also dedicate this to Martica, a colleague on our team, who has a tough fight for her own health ahead of her, and whose presence has transformed our work on a daily basis. Be of good courage, Martica.
Gracias a todos.
I would now like to invite Alejandra Xanic to the podium. Alejandra Xanic has long been among the leading investigative journalists in Mexico. For more than 30 years, she has been uncovering the truth and holding the powerful accountable with impactful and far-reaching reporting. Her groundbreaking investigations range from her days as a young reporter in Guadalajara, covering a deadly gas explosion in 1992 that ripped apart the entire city blocks, to the bribery and corruption that allowed Walmart to build a store near ancient pyramids outside of Mexico City. As the first Mexican awarded the Pulitzer Prize, she has become a leader for a new generation doing investigative reporting in one of the most dangerous countries in the world for journalists. Xanic, as she is known across the Americas, also co-founded the investigative media outlet Quinto, Elemento Lab, alongside fellow Cabot recipient Marcella Turati. Among the organization's many innovative projects is a chatbot to help navigate the process of reporting a missing person in Mexico, and a training program for investigative editors, the only one of its kind in the Spanish-speaking world. Xanic's journalistic talent is only matched by her generosity in sharing her knowledge of Mexico's transparency laws. She's a fierce defender of the right to access information, and so for her courage and tenacity, the Maria Moors Cabot Board is proud to honor Xanic with the Maria Moors Cabot Gold Medal.
Thank you. That helps. I thank you all for being here. A few weeks ago, my 19-year-old mother went into a corner store to buy her cigarettes, as she does every afternoon. As soon as she set foot inside, the cashier stopped her, and she called two of the employees who were at the warehouse and called them in to join in the cheers and hugs. They had heard on the radio her daughter had won an award. News of the award reached Jorge, who's down here, my life partner, as he came to my desk at home and found me astounded and electrified. I caught a glimpse of the most tender image of him with his eyes watering with complicit excitement. A song by Peter Gabriel put words to what I felt then and what I feel now, or what I feel since. Now close your eyes for a moment, look down and look above. All the warmth inside of you comes from those you love. I turned 56 a few weeks ago, not years, and I have always thought of my path in journalism more like an erratic game of pinball than a strategic game of chess, as other colleagues, I think, have walked. This Lifetime Achievement Award gave me the permission to see myself for a few moments through the eyes of others and consider that perhaps my path over all these years does, in fact, make sense. My admired colleagues, Marcela, Angela, Laura, Adela, have spoken in other years when receiving this award about the blood that runs through Mexico today. They have talked about the huge humanitarian crisis, the 110,000 people who are missing, and about the attacks and murders of colleagues around the country. Above all that, the country is now divided in sides, as is the US as well. The president has been giving so much power to the military, I'm afraid it cannot be reversed. And fear has slipped in through a crack and now lurks in the living room of many homes which are experiencing this loss of liberty. If I become a reporter, can I lose my life? Am I putting my family at risk? Will I always earn very little money? Am I going to become a cynic? Those were the questions that I was asked by young people in their 20s when they were finishing a journalism course a couple of months ago. There have been many lighthouses in my life since I started off as a reporter at 19 years of age. Other journalists who helped me put these issues into perspective, from whom I've learned and I keep learning, and time and time again, I go to them when my conviction falters. But today, many young people who choose to be reporters will work in newsrooms without such journalists to teach them the good, the bad, and the ugly, who they can rely on to replenish their determination. The financial crisis has hit the media in Mexico very harshly. But there's an emergence of fierce independent startups throughout the country. I want to believe that right there is where the learning and the conviction will replenish. One of these startups is Quinto Elemento Lab, their organization we founded 6 years ago to make it possible, thank you, for young and experienced reporters to dig into issues that the media cannot pursue. We incubate their projects, we become their accomplices, we become their investigative team. I want to thank Jorge, my friends, Lourdes here, Kathy, and so many people who have been my lighthouses. I thank those friends who sent letters, and I thank the jury who thought I was worthy of this award. And I want to share it with the fabulous team at Quinto Elemento Lab, with Armando, Marcela, Nacho, Diana, Efraín, Violeta, Kathy, Ara, Andres, Silvia, and Alan. It is, in fact, a smaller team, but we have a big set of collaborators. And I thank the Cabot family, Godfrey Lowell Cabot, who, in an act of love, created this award on the name of his wife, Maria Moors, who had the vision to support journalism in the region. Thank you.
Congratulations to all of the 2023 Cabot Prize winners. Now we're going to honor two special citation recipients. The first is Miguel Mendoza. Miguel, please come to the podium. Miguel Mendoza defines himself as a sports reporter, but the Nicaraguan government jailed him for 597 days in a cell where he was tortured and then sentenced him to 9 years in prison. The government then took away his nationality, confiscated his assets, and exiled him for fulfilling his mission, which was informing society about public affairs. Mendoza spent 30 years covering some of the most important sporting events in the world, but his life changed when he began posting information on his social networks about street protests and human rights violations committed in his country, and exposing contradictions between the official speeches and actions. After his home was raided in June 2021, he was detained and held incommunicado from his family. He spent months in solitary confinement, subjected to interrogation and physical abuse, until the Nicaraguan government exiled him on February 9th of this year, along with 221 other journalists. But that didn't break him. When they lock you up for your values, they don't defeat you, he said shortly after his release. The Cabot board wants to honor Miguel Mendoza for enduring firsthand violence and persecution in his beloved country, and in his name, all his fellow Nicaraguan reporters facing extreme challenges, with a 2023 Maria Moors Cabot Special Citation for his commitment to the truth in the face of oppression.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Gracias a las personas que votaron para que yo estuviera aquí, para que se aprobara mi citación especial en estos premios tan importantes. Cuando me llamaron para comunicarme hace un par de meses, revisé que el más distinguido de todos los periodistas de Nicaragua, el doctor Pedro Joaquín Chamorro, héroe de las libertades públicas de Nicaragua, se paró aquí y creí que eran unos zapatos demasiado grandes para estar aquí.
Thank you to all those who voted for me to receive this important and special citation. When I received the phone call a few months ago, I thought that the hero of journalism in Nicaragua, of my country, Pedro Joaquín Chamorro, stood here one day and received a prize like this. and I consider him a hero of public liberty, and therefore perhaps these shoes would be too big to fill.
Me siento honrado de recibir esta citación especial en esta ceremonia porque la recibo en nombre del valiente y heroico periodismo independiente de Nicaragua, que sigue resistiendo de pie y con coraje las embestidas, la persecución y la criminalización de nuestro oficio por parte de una dictadura demencial como la que componen Ortega y Murillo.
I feel honored to receive the special citation in this ceremony on behalf of the brave and heroic independent journalists of Nicaragua who continue to stand up and courageously resist the attacks, persecution, and criminalization of our profession by an insane Ortega and Murillo dictatorship.
Para mí es surreal estar aquí ante ustedes, acompañado de mi hija Alejandra y de mi Margin.
It is surreal to be here before you, accompanied by my daughter Alejandra and my dear Margin, my wife,
Que no me abandonaron un solo día.
who
Cuando
never
todavía
abandoned me, not even a single day.
no me abandonaron un solo día. Para mí es surreal porque hace 9 meses atrás todavía estaba encerrado en una pequeña celda en condiciones inhumanas, recibiendo torturas físicas y psicológicas, cumpliendo una condena de 9 años por ser periodista, por ejercer mi derecho a la libertad de expresión y por realizar críticas de políticas públicas a la pareja dictatorial, señalada por organismos de derechos humanos de cometer crímenes de lesa humanidad sobre ciudadanos desarmados.
I say they didn't leave me alone a single day because 9 months ago I was locked up in a small cell under inhumane conditions, receiving both physical and psychological torture, sentenced to 9 years for being a journalist, for exercising my right to freedom of expression and criticizing public policies and criticizing the couple that runs this dictatorship, who human rights organizations have accused of committing crimes against humanity on unarmed citizens.
En Nicaragua no hay prensa independiente, no hay libertad de expresión, todos los derechos ciudadanos están conculcados. Grandes medios de comunicación como la prensa con 100 años, Confidencial, 100% Noticias y Radio Darío han sido confiscados y tomados por fuerzas paramilitares y policiales en estos últimos años, y sus periodistas han sido empujados al exilio.
Within Nicaragua, there is no independent press, no freedom of expression, and all the rights of citizens are violated. Large media outlets such as the 100-year-old La Prensa newspaper, Confidencial, 100% Noticias, and Radio Darío have been confiscated and taken over by police and paramilitary forces in recent years, and all of their journalists have been driven into exile.
En Nicaragua se persigue a los ciudadanos hasta por dar un like a las publicaciones en redes sociales. En Nicaragua no hay un solo periodista trabajando en libertad, porque los que aún no han podido salir del país trabajan en el anonimato o cubriéndose en la clandestinidad, porque no pueden hacerlo de manera pública.
In Nicaragua, citizens are persecuted for even liking something on a social media post. There isn't a single journalist able to work openly and freely in Nicaragua. Those that haven't been able to leave the country must work anonymously.
Desde el 2018, año del estallido social en contra del régimen, organizaciones de periodistas en el exilio registran ya 1.329 ataques a la libertad de prensa, 218 periodistas exiliados, 60 medios de comunicación clausurados, 22 periodistas desterrados, varios colegas secuestrados, un colega como Ángel Gaona asesinado. Hace unas semanas, el régimen condenó al periodista Víctor Ticay a 8 años de cárcel por transmitir en sus redes sociales durante la Semana Santa una procesión religiosa.
Since 2018, the year that the social backlash arose against the regime, organizations of exiled journalists have recorded 1,329 attacks on freedom of the press. 218 journalists have been exiled, 60 media outlets have been shuttered, 22 journalists stripped of their own citizenship, several kidnapped, and one colleague, Angel Gaona, has been murdered. A few weeks ago, the regime sentenced Victor Ticay to 8 years in prison for merely broadcasting a Holy Week procession on his social media network.
Pero con todo y estos ataques, la dictadura de Nicaragua no ha podido doblegar el compromiso con la sociedad del periodismo independiente, que trabajando entre las limitaciones del exilio, derrumba todos los días el cerco de la censura, el discurso único pretendido por el régimen y su falsa narrativa de los crímenes que comete. El periodismo al que pertenezco todos los días los desnuda con grandes investigaciones sobre sus corruptelas y abusos.
Despite these attacks, the dictatorship has not been able to end or compromise society's commitment to independent journalism. Working within the limitations of exile, they continue to resist the siege of censorship that the regime has unleashed to perpetuate false narratives about its own crimes. The profession of journalism to which I belong exposes these each and every day with major investigations into the abuse and corruption.
Hoy por hoy, el periodismo independiente en Nicaragua, que no tiene ni instalaciones ni equipos sofisticados y que trabaja errante por el mundo, es la segunda institución más creíble y mejor valorada por los ciudadanos, de acuerdo a las últimas encuestas.
Today, independent journalism in Nicaragua, which does not have sophisticated facilities or equipment and which works while wandering around the world, is still the second most credible and valued institution for Nicaraguans, according to all sources.
Quiero terminar dando las gracias a Dios por la fortaleza que le dio a mi familia, a Margin, a Alejandra, a mis hermanos, a mi madre y a todos mis amigos, para soportar tanto sufrimiento porque ellos también estuvieron secuestrados. Estaban afuera, pero estaban secuestrados conmigo porque no tenían ningún tipo de libertad, eran asediados, perseguidos. Y también gracias a Dios por haberme guardado para resistir esos 597 días en una de las cárceles más infames del continente.
I want to finish by thanking God the strength that He gave my family. I want to thank Alejandra and Margin, thank my mother and my siblings for having suffered this imprisonment that I lived through, and for having helped me sustain and resist the 597 days that I was locked up in one of those infamous prisons on this continent.
Gracias a todos los que están detrás del premio Maria Moors Cabot. Quiero decirles que en mis fantasías infantiles yo me imaginaba jugando béisbol, vistiendo el uniforme de los Yankees de Nueva York. Y varias veces me soñé dando un jonrón en una serie mundial. Pues quiero decirles que este es mi jonrón, esta es mi serie mundial y en Nueva York.
Thank you to all of those who make the Maria Moors Cabot Awards possible for this special citation. You know, as a child, I had this fantasy that one day I might wear a baseball jersey, baseball uniform for the New York Yankees, that I would make it to the stadium and hit a home run in New York. Well, let me tell you, this is my home run in New York.
Y ese es el aplauso del Yankee Stadium después de ese jonrón.
And that's my home run applause from Yankee Stadium that I just heard.
Y es que me siento como pez en el agua hablando de deporte.
Because I feel like a fish in water when I speak about sports.
Les pido a todos ustedes, ya para terminar, que siempre tengan presente la situación de Nicaragua, porque me doy cuenta que muchísima gente no la conoce. Ayer mismo, después de la conferencia de prensa, algunos me preguntaban que no lo sabían y que por qué. Les decía que Nicaragua es un país pobre, el segundo más pobre del continente, por lo tanto no hay tantos intereses económicos en juego y por eso estamos prácticamente solos.
I also would ask that you keep the situation today in Nicaragua in mind. I realize that many are unaware, many ignore what the reality of my country is. Just yesterday in a meeting with students, I realized that this was the case, and I said to some of their questions that Nicaragua was, as the second poorest country in the hemisphere, a country that doesn't have many important economic interests at play.
El día que nos presentaron de manera pública, nos sacaron de la cárcel el 1 de septiembre para darle a la sociedad y con quienes estaban negociando nuestra liberación una prueba de vida. Ese día fue la ratificación de una condena de 9 años y para el resto de los presos políticos también la ratificación de sus condenas. Ese día, ante los propagandistas de la dictadura, les pronuncié que viva la libertad de expresión, viva el periodismo independiente, viva Nicaragua, que pronto será libre.
On the 1st of September, when I was finally released, in response to demands that there be some proof of my being still alive and a ratification of my 9-year sentence, I denounced the propagandists of the regime, and I said, and I say again tonight, long live freedom of expression, long live free Nicaragua. We will be free again one day.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Okay, now I have to invite our second citation winner to the podium, Nayeli Roldán. For years, Nayeli Roldán has been a journalistic benchmark in Mexico, a country with one of the worst rates of violence against journalists in the world. Even under such dangerous conditions, she's carried out investigations about corruption, embezzlement, violence against women, and espionage that gained her both respect and retaliation for her reporting. Most recently, with her investigation into illegal espionage carried out by the Mexican army, Roldán embodies journalistic excellence in her country. She's faced public diatribes from President Andrés Manuel López Obrador and his acolytes because of her work. This makes her a brilliant example of forbearance among fellow journalists in Mexico and other countries of the Americas, who continue to work under extreme pressure while suffering personal attacks. For all of this, when independent journalism is being attacked in so many countries in the hemisphere, even by the very authorities that should ensure the safety of reporters, the Cabot Board honors Nayeli Roldán with a Maria Moors Cabot 2023 Special Citation as an example of solid journalism in the face of adversity. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I am very nervous. This is my first speech in English. And Thank you, thank you, thank you. Being here is a bittersweet feeling. Of course, it's an honor, but the occasion from this special mention is the attack against journalists in my country. And that is no pleasant. Mexico is the second most dangerous country to practice journalism, only after Ukraine, a nation at war. In the last 23 years, 161 journalists have been murdered, and even worse, 98% of these crimes go unpunished. 2022 was the last year so far, with 12 journalists murdered and 696 attacks against the press. That is one assault every 13 hours, most perpetrated by the authorities. Added to this are the attacks from the country's highest power, President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. His daily press conference has become a stigmatizing space for those he calls adversaries, the same feminist rights defender who criticized his propaganda speech. From that platform, he slanders and harasses journalists who seek the truth. He attempts to discredit the messenger to divert attention from the message, triggering a tremendous digital violence against us. The president has made of lie one of his main weapons. For anyone wondering why he is so popular, the constant lies, propaganda, and the official spin may offer an explanation. Killing the truth and attacking journalists are the principal weapons against freedom and democracy. That is why journalism today is more needed than ever. While lies seek to deceive, the journalism investigates, contextualizes, and offers people evidence. In the face of lies, information. While he insists there is a so-called transformation taking place in Mexico, journalists have documented what it's like to live in a country with 88 daily murders and more than 100,000 missing people, showing how the organized crime wins more space every time with authorities' permission. Journalists have documented that in Mexico, 10 women are murdered every day. They have exposed the whole crisis, the impunity of army that spies journalists and human rights defenders, and they've showed that corruption is not over. We continue to practice journalism, dissipate everything because we are outraged by this reality and because someone has to say something. I believe it is an act of service to our readers. We provide them with information that can help them make decisions. We hope one day the liars will be called to account by a society that, in turn, demands to live in a country in peace, where their children don't disappear or they have medicines when they get sick. From here, I call on Mexicans to stand behind their journalist, because when a journalist is attacked or murdered, we are all affected. Every time a journalist stops publishing, everybody loses the right to information and therefore the freedom to decide. Finally, allow me make personal thanks, because one does not get here alone. This world also belongs to Animal Político, and each of the journalists, and Gerardo y Gloria Marquez, who built this independent media. Thanks, Daniel Moreno, for creating it, for the teachings, and trust in my work. And of course, to my mother, Eva Roldán, from whom I have learned everything. So tenacious and brave that she spent much of her life selling headbands on the street, so that her daughter could attend university and dedicate herself to her passion, journalism. Thank you so much.
Okay, so we are at the end. Good night. Thank you very much. This was very emotional, very touching. I'm very emotional on this moment. I would like to call the winners to come for a picture. And thank you, everybody, for this. This was great. Thank you so much.